Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 2 Section 1.6 Notes. Today we're talking about multiplying and dividing real numbers. Our learning target today is to be able to simplify and evaluate expressions that involve multiplying and dividing real numbers. So, if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. What do you guys remember? Okay. If you think you got all this, go ahead and pause the video and give it a try. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to go by these step by step. Okay. Now, the first one says -3 times -4. When you multiply two negatives, you actually get a positive. And 3 times 4, if you need your multiplication charts, go ahead and take them out. But that's 12. Okay? 2. We got -64 divided by 4. Now, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And now go ahead and get your multiplication charts out. I actually don't have mine, so I'm going to do mine the long way. 4 goes into 6 one time. Bring down the 4, and 4 goes into 24 6 times. So we get -16. Number 3. Can we reduce that? Yes, we can. What goes into both 6 and 18? 6 does, guys. So I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 6. Now we've got two negatives, so two negatives make a positive. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. So we get positive 1/3. Number 4. When you're doing problems like number 4, what I would do first is worry about if it's positive or negative. You have two negatives, so when you're multiplying two negatives, it makes it positive. And now we can multiply in any order that you want to. Okay? You can be like, well, 2 times 6 is 12. I know that. Okay, go ahead and do that. Or 6 times 5 is 30. Or 2 times 5 is 10. Doesn't matter. Okay? We'll actually do that one since that's what I just did. So then we got 10 times 6, and then 10 times 6 is 60. Okay? All right, going up to the top. Now, remember that what that means is -10 times -10. Negative times negative is a positive. 10 times 10 gives us 100. And now there's a big difference between 5 and 6, because see how 5 there is parentheses and 6 there isn't. In 6, the square only relates to the 8. So what 6 means is that we have -8 times 8. So there's only one negative, so it stays negative, and 8 times 8 is 64. All right, 7. Same thing. We have -5. We've got 3 of those. So negative times negative times negative. Well, I know my final answer is going to be negative, so I'm going to forget about all those now. 5 times 5 is 25, and I'm left with another 5. And 25 times 5 is -125. All right, number 8. We're dividing, and we're dividing fractions. Yucky. Okay, whenever we see division, we're going to flip the second fraction. The -4/3 stays the same. We're changing that to multiplication. 9/8. Okay? And now we look at our kitty corners to see if there's anything that we can reduce. Okay? 4 and 8 changes to 1 and 2. 3 and 9, 1 and 3. And so when you multiply those straight across, 1/1 times 3/2, and that's a negative, we get -3/2. So, looking at how do you guys do? Not too good? If you're not too good, I'd watch some of those other videos. All right? So now, evaluate each expression. We're using order of operations. Okay? So if you forgot what order of operations are, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Okay? Or we write it step by step, knowing that those last two is each, we do them in order from left to right. All right? So Let's go ahead and work on these. -2 times -2. Well, that's first. -2 times -2 gives us +4. -24 divided by 6, because that comes next. -24 divided by 6 is 4. And then 4 minus 4 gives us a grand total of 0. Okay, number 10. We have to do what's inside the parentheses first, which is all the way over there. So 2 minus 3 gives us -1. Okay, and now we can multiply each group. -5 times -3 is +15. -4 times -1 gives us +4. Add those two up, and we get 19. Okay, once again, we have to do what's inside the parentheses first. -8 plus 6 gives us -2. And now that's -2 times -2 times -2. We have 3 negatives, so it stays negative. And -2 times -2 times -2 gives us -8. -2 times -8 gives me +16. And then you can add those guys up to get +33. All right, number 12. Let's worry about the top first. And on the top, we actually have 2 sets of multiplication. So 2 times 4 gives me 8. And -3 times -2 gives me +6. And 8 plus 6 gives me 14. On the bottom, -2 plus 4 gives me 2. Just move that down, and then we've got 14 divided by 2, which is 7. All right. Next one. Words or phrases that mean multiplication. Okay. Why don't you guys pause the video and see how many you guys can write down. Okay, those are some words that I thought of right off the top of my head, but there might be a couple more. We've got a word wall up in the room, so you can always check that out. Okay? And the key ones that we want you to remember are the ones that are in red. Okay, those are special ones that mean specific things. Okay? All right, let's move down to the next part. It says translate and evaluate. Okay, so I'm going to try to zoom in so we're only looking at one of these at a time, which will be a little bit harder than I thought. So anyways, the sum of 5 and the quotient of 12 and -4. So sum tells us that we need to add 5, but we also need to take the quotient of 12 and -4. So what I would do to write that one down, whoa, what's going on? I want to move this. So let me move it. There we go. So we are adding 5, but before we do that, we need to do 12 divided by -4. Okay? So that gives us 12 divided by -4 is -3. So 5 plus -3 gives us 2. Okay, so I'm going to try to write all this in this little small space. Okay, product. Product tells us we need to multiply 4 and 12. This comma is kind of saying like, yo, we got to do this first, and then we have to decrease it by 2. So the product of 4 and 12, that means we need, or 4 and 8, we need to multiply those and then subtract 2. 4 times 8 is 32, and 32 minus 2 is 30. Okay. Oops. All right, next one. The quotient of 6 and the sum of 12 and -5. Okay, so quotient, sum. What do we have to do? Why don't you guys pause the video and see if you can figure that one all on your own. Good luck. Okay, so the quotient tells us that we need to divide. And we're dividing 6, that's the number that goes on top. But we're dividing it by the sum of 15 and -6. Okay? 15 plus -6 is 9, and then we can actually reduce that fraction to 2/3. And that's your answer. All right, that's one. 12 less than the square of -7. Okay? So a couple keywords that we see is less than and square. So when we write this one down, less than is one of those special ones that we subtract, but we have to switch the order so that 12 goes to the back and -7 comes out front. -7 squared is 49, and 49 minus 12 gives us 37. Okay? All right, next one. Oh my gosh. So inverses cancel each other out. Now, if we are adding, the additive inverse is pretty much saying we got to do the opposite of that. Okay? So the additive inverse of -37 would be to add 37. If we had a positive 2/3, we'd want to do the opposite of that. So we would subtract 2/3. And then if, once again, if we had minus 8.9, we would want to add 8.9. Okay? And the multiplication blah, blah, blah inverse. Okay? Whenever we multiply something and we want to get it by itself, say we have 1/2 x equals 2, we want to multiply so that those cancel out and give us 1. Because 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times 2 is 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay? So if you're multiplying by -37, what you would want to do is you would multiply or divide this by -37. Okay? B, I kind of gave you the answer right there because I multiplied by the reciprocal, which would be 3/2. And then C, -8.9, we would multiply by -1/8.9. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's it for Algebra 2, Chapter 1.6 notes. If you have any questions, please come see Ms. Carranza or myself. Otherwise, thanks for watching.